Inside Jenison Fieldhouse, where a man named Magic used to make it happen, but today the magicians are the gymnasts, as Michigan State will host the 14th ranked Minnesota Golden Gophers this afternoon. Next to a former Wolverine, Eddie Humphrey, I'm Dan Kelly. It's really nice to have you along this afternoon on the Big Ten Network as the visitors, the Minnesota Golden Gophers, look to continue their momentum. Meanwhile, Michigan State looks to start some momentum, still winless on the season.
That's right, and we're looking for a great competition today and some scores to settle, as both teams actually finished tied in the Big Ten championships last year for 4th place.
Well, the Gophers, they've been moving on up, number 17 now to number 14 in the country, and a freshman plays a pretty big part for this team in Kayla Schlechter.
She's been a huge addition to this Minnesota team, an incredible vaulter. She's actually placed no lower than 2nd place at each competition this season. Leading the way for Minnesota is Kendra Elm, a very consistent competitor, and if she's healthy, look for Minnesota to have a great season.
We mentioned the Michigan State Spartans looking for their first win, trying to get on a roll. Danny Levy, a freshman from Florida, what's she bring to the team?
Well, just a freshman, but already showing veteran-type leadership. She's been very consistent, a top 20 performer in the Big Ten currently, and also top 15 on the floor exercise.
Michigan State also expecting big performance from Shanti Taiki.
Shanti Taiki has been one of Michigan State's most consistent performers for the last 2 seasons, currently ranked 10th in the all-around in the Big Ten and top 18 on the floor exercise.
So Michigan State will rely upon Levy and Taiki. Coming up, we'll talk women's Big Ten gymnastics and the rest of the conference and the rest of the story. It's a great day in East Lansing, Michigan, as the Minnesota Golden Gophers getting geared up to take on the Michigan State Spartans. But first things first, let's check out the national picture and the national rankings as of January 17th. And right now, Eddie, the Gators from Florida looking down upon everyone.
Well, the Florida Gators have been posting incredible numbers this season, championship-type numbers that right now are very hard to touch.
We'll get to the first rotation in just a couple of minutes, but first things first, let's delve inside our own conference, the Big Ten Conference. Who are some teams we should keep our eye on this season?
Well, you always have to keep your eye open on Michigan, winning 20 of the last 22 Big Ten titles. Leading the way, Sarah Curtis in her 5th year, trying to vault Michigan into a national title position. Also, senior Kylie Botterman is leading the conference right now in the all-around. You can never count out University of Illinois with 5 solid all-arounders, and leading the way is Allison Buckley. University of Iowa coming in very young and very strong, really surprising the Big Ten with a 3rd place finish last season.
And we can see a lot of these up-and-coming teams right here on the Big Ten Network. Iowa at Illinois, January 29th, and some dates in February and March, and then things culminate March 19th, the Big Ten Championship, 3 p.m. Eastern. But we've got things to get started here in Michigan. Coming up, it's the first rotation from the land of green and white as the Spartans take on the Gophers next. Good day to be in East Lansing, Michigan, inside Jenison Fieldhouse. 14th ranked Gophers taking on the Michigan State Spartans. And coming up next, we've got more women's gymnastics on the Big Ten Network. The Hawkeyes are in Champaign to meet the Fighting Illini. It's next in HD, and it's only here on the Big Ten Network. First rotation just moments away. And here's how things are going to play out. Minnesota will start on the bars. Michigan State will begin on the vault. We check out Michigan State's lineup on the vault. Who stands out for you here, Eddie?
Keep an eye open for Nikki Arteros, the top Spartan vaulter at every single meet thus far this year.
Minnesota Golden Gophers on the bars. Who's a name to watch out for?
The Gophers are led by Kristen Furukawa. She's had 9.8 or better performances in the last 2 years and currently 6th in the conference with a 9.825 average.
Series history between these two teams, 52nd all-time meeting. The Gophers lead the series, and Minnesota won last year's meeting. Speaking of Minnesota, their head coach, Meg Stevenson, 19th year with the Gophers, 14th as head coach, but just her second solo as a head coach, as she was co-head coach with her husband Bob in years past. So she now is the lone chief in charge. So there we look at Kathy Klages on the Michigan State sidelines, 21st season. Coach Klages trying to get her team on the winning side of the ledger. As we spoke to both coaches, Kathy Klages and Meg Stevenson, moments ago about what their teams are trying to accomplish in today's meet.
Well, we have had 3 meets already so far this season, and in each meet we have done a really good job on 3 events and basically self-destructed on balance beam. And so we have worked really hard this week in the gym to up our focus on that event, to realize that we're all capable of doing what we're being asked to do, and the confidence has grown immensely this week in the gym. So we hope to come out here today and really improve upon that beam performance that we've done in the last few meets, and do what we've been doing and clean up a little bit on the other events.
24 for 24. That's what we always hope to do. Get in there, do the best we can, see what happens in the end.
First up on the vault for the Michigan State Spartans, Serena Bumbarger out of Seminole, Florida, the freshman introduced to the vault lineup at Pitt.
She's performing a Yurchenko vault, just a layout. Performed well. Good start for the Spartans. And the Yurchenko entry is a round-off entry into the board by canceling onto the horse. You can see her arms are just a little bit soft, a little bit bent on the horse. And there it will be a 10th deduction for that.
Let's go over to the uneven bars. Another freshman, Kayla Schlechter, out of Shakopee, Minnesota.
Very talented freshman. She qualified to compete at the Junior Olympic Level 10 Nationals 4 years. Mounting with a bail to a handstand. Toe up. That's a blind change full pirouette to an immediate Tkachev. You can see she has very long lines, very tight in the air. A blind change full pirouette, double tuck, and a big stick. Great start from Minnesota on bars.
Virtually no bounce there from Schlechter.
And here's the replay. A little bit short on the cast, but she performs a blind change full pirouette to a perfect double tuck.
Back to the vault we go with Kelsey Morley.
Now, Morley has been bothered with a lot of injuries this season, so this is actually her season debut.
Senior, 5'4" out of Elkhart, Indiana. Here goes Kelsey.
Performs a very interesting vault, full on, 1.5 off. And that's always a fun vault to watch. She had a little bit of difficulty in it in warm-ups, but performed it well.
This Kelsey and the Spartans wearing pink today is the 5th annual Jan Howard Flip for a Cure breast cancer awareness meet.
And she performed the vault a little bit better than I've actually seen her do it in the past. It was a little bit cleaner. Good start for the Spartans.
Now we move to the bars. Up for the University of Minnesota, Yuri Nagai, the senior from Maryville, Tennessee, a native of Japan, but graduated from Maryville High School. Here goes Nagai for the 14th ranked Gophers.
Starting with a board mount, jump over the low bar. Blind change, half turn. To a hop half turn, very nicely done. To a packed salto, very high. Good clean cast to handstand, double layout dismount, and just a small step back. Minnesota is swinging very clean right now.
And a lot of enthusiasm on the sidelines for the Gophers as we watch the dismount again.
She gets a great tap to her dismount. Giant swings to a double flip in the laid out position.
Now back on the vault for the Spartans, Danny Levy. freshman from Newport Richey, Florida. 9.5 on the vault at West Virginia. See what Danny can do here.
Hoping to better that score today. Nice strong approach. And a Yurchenko layout full. She was a little bit piked in the air, which should be about a 10th deduction. This horse just a little bit crunched with bent arms. You can see she has to pike down just a little bit on that landing.
Second to go. Here's the score from Yuri Nagai on the bars. We stay on the bars. Next up, for the University of Minnesota, Janelle Campbell. Tied a personal best last competition with a 9.8 on the bars.
Campbell, a communications major. Another bail to a handstand. A bit short. Shouldn't be a big deduction.
What are some of the things you're looking for in the deductions?
Well, what the judges are looking for is perfect handstands right to the tee. Anything short could be from a half a tenth to a full tenth to even 2/10 deduction. This cast here before her dismount, possibly only a half a tenth deduction, but does a very unique dismount, half twisting double front, and lands it well.
Danny Levy, her score on the bars. We move back to the vault, and Shante Taiki getting prepared. Top all-arounder for the Spartans the last competition, placing second with a combined score of 38.57. Here goes Shante.
And Michigan State is having some solid vaults here. We see another Yurchenko full in the laid out position. Not giving away a lot of deductions here on this vault. Very tight on the horse, good straight arms. The head position comes out just a little bit, but the coach loves it in the back.
Check out Janelle Campbell's score a few seconds ago, 9.70 for Janelle. Back on the bars we go. Here is a look at Kendra Elm. 9.85 on the bars versus Michigan State last year. Led and matched a career high with that score.
Scored a 9.75 last week. I love her swing. She swings so aggressively. Has a nice quick tap. Setting up for a big dismount. Double layout. Another good routine. Minnesota is really attacking the bar today. Here's your double layout. 2 flips in the stretched position. Here's a closer look. You can see how much stress that type of swing is putting on the hands.
Perhaps a sign of confidence attacking the bar right now as we move to the vault. Deneen Haba. .56 junior from Germantown, Tennessee. The season high 9.7 on the vault versus Iowa, Michigan, and Western Michigan. Here goes Haba.
Yurchenko entry to layout half. Now this is a very difficult vault because it's a blind landing. You don't see much before you touch the ground, but she performs it very well.
How do you approach it differently since it's a blind landing?
Well, this vault, the best way to approach this is you have to think of it in 2 different ways. First, doing a layout, what she does there, late half twist. Because it's a blind landing, but she does it great.
see Kendra Elm's score on the bars just a minute ago. Next up, we move to the uneven bars in the University of Minnesota side. Kristen Furukawa out of Pomona, California. She's been the anchor since her sophomore season on the bars, tied for first place in both meets this season.
She's one of the most consistent bar workers Minnesota's had in years. Scoring almost 20, 9.8 or better in the last 2 seasons. Incredible marks. And you can see why right now. She has very nice lines, a great toe point. Setting up for a dismount, another double layout. Oh, and just a little bit off. Right here, she does a blind change to a Jaeger in the piked position. And here you can see on this dismount, she's a little bit piked in the hip position, which causes her to over-rotate, having to take a few steps back.
Last on the vault, Deneen Haba with a score of 9.8. Nikki Argyros, 5'2" senior out of Livonia, Michigan.
Chenko layout full, and she's been the Spartans' top vaulter for the last 3 competitions. We'll see how that score holds up today. Scored a 9.75 on this event against Pittsburgh. Was good enough for second place. Again, just a little bit of pike down on the dismount. If she had kept her hips open, straighter body, she probably would have stuck the landing.
.960 for Kristen Furukawa. Last up on the bars, Megan Alvarez. The freshman out of Villa Park, Illinois, goes to work.
Said she chose U of M because their high academic standard. The teammates and the coaches were a great fit for her, and she's struggling a bit. Had to touch her feet, but she's fighting through to the end, and just to lay out dismount. And she has a knee brace on. I'm wondering if she is saving her knee, being that Minnesota had 5 good scores to count on. And this is her release move, a Tkachev. And going to the dismount, just a nice simple layout there. No need to take any risk. Minnesota has their 5 scores that they need.
Here's Nikki Argyros, her score on the vault moments ago, 9.825 for Nikki. Megan Alvarez, I bet she'll like her score. So that wraps up the first rotation. When we come back on the Big Ten Network, we'll check out results. And coming up, we've got the second rotation as they switch. Back on the Michigan State campus, you got to check out the Big Ten Women's Show. It's 30 minutes dedicated to the world of Big Ten women's athletics. Kind of coverage just can't get anywhere else. The Big Ten Women's Show, presented by Pure Silk, Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, only on the Big Ten Network. When we look out the results after the first rotation, Michigan State and their numbers.
Nikki Argyros, once again, for the 4th straight competition, leading the Spartans on the vault with a 9.825.
Minnesota, their bar results.
And Minnesota was solid. Kendra Elm leading the way with a 9.775.
So let's check out the team standings after this first rotation from Michigan State. there are the numbers after one rotation. Well, earlier we caught up with Minnesota Golden Gopher head coach Meg Stevenson. It's good to be joined by University of Minnesota head coach Meg Stevenson. And Meg, you saw the first rotation, your team on the uneven bars. What did you think of the performance to start things off?
Actually, I was really pleased. I thought we did a great job. I'd much rather see someone overdo something than underdo, so we had a little bit of steps out of Kristen Furukawa's routine, but all in all, I think a really great set of our routines.
And Coach, right now your team is ranked 5th in the conference going into vault. What do you tell your team to keep them focused on a great performance here?
You know, we just do what we do. I mean, our motto is really all we can do is all we can do, so let's get out there and do it. And that's what they're going to focus on, giving it their best shot and doing the best that they possibly can.
Like the slogan says, Coach, just do it, right? Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Back at Michigan State University, 5th annual Jan Howard Flip for a Cure breast cancer awareness meet. That's why both teams look very similar. Michigan State and the University of Minnesota as Anna Balboa, the senior, will start things off on the vault for the Gophers.
Chenko entry to a layout. Well performed. It won't be a 10-0 start value, but a good vault for Minnesota to build on.
Last year, Minnesota started on the vault versus Michigan State. There's Nikki Argyros, a senior from Livonia, Michigan. Argyros is season high 9.75 versus West Virginia on January 14th. As a team, Michigan State 35th in the nation on the bars. Argyros, here she goes.
Trying to capitalize off of her performance on vault in that all-important position, the leadoff position, the position that gets your team rolling, gets the ball going, and so far she's looking good.
Getting the home crowd behind her.
Setting up for the dismount, double layout, stuck landing. That's the type of start you need if you're Michigan State.
How contagious is this momentum, Eddie?
It's huge. It's huge. It sets the tone for the rotation, sets the tone for the rest of the meet. Showing great leadership here. That was a blind change, full pirouette to a Ginger. And a double layout to a stuck landing.
So Nikki sticks it. So we look at Anna Balboa's score, 9.55 for Balboa. On the vault, Shannon Golich. She competed on the vault in the final 4 competitions last year, averaging a 9.7 second best in the team, but didn't compete early last year, rehabbing from injuries from high school, so now really getting into a groove, hopefully, is Shannon Golich.
Preparing for another Yurchenko entry, full twist. Just a small pike down and a small step. Her teammates are happy with the performance.
Look at the determination there.
She says one of the things she loves most is the pregame. Just getting ready, pumping the music in the locker room, getting ready for the meets. She loves the energy.
The mental challenges of this sport and the mental preparation are something that is so surprising as we see Nikki Argyros' score on the bar is a 9.85 for Nikki.
Like you said, a very tough sport mentally, as physically you see here.
Come on, Shanti!
Shantae Taiki, sophomore out of Columbus, Indiana.
And she missed her release in warm-ups. Let's see if she catches it. Tkachev, she's got it smoothly. Looking good so far.
Competing in the all-around this afternoon is Taiki.
Double tuck. Small hop on the landing. But another good routine for Michigan State. This is a clear hip to handstand, almost missed it. to an immediate Tkachev. And another blind change full pirouette to a double tuck dismount. A very common combination that you'll see in college gymnastics.
Look at Shannon's score on the vault. Yuri Nagai is next up for Minnesota on the vault, a member of the Japan junior national team in high school. Nagai, the sports management major.
Should be performing a Yurchenko layout full twist. Nicely done, just a step to the side. Should be about a 10th deduction. But Minnesota staying consistent. And this is the most common entry you'll see. Round off entry, putting your hands on the hand mat, back handspring onto the horse with a full twist in the laid out position.
There's Taiki's score. 9-6 for Shantae. Danny Levy for Michigan State. The bar's personal best mark last competition of 9-7, tied for third, did Levy.
That was against Pittsburgh. And another Pike Jaeger. Same release that we saw from Minnesota gymnasts previously. Transitioning from the low to the high bar. Getting ready for her dismount. And she's close. She did pull in just a little bit on that dismount, but saves it.
That's the voice of former Michigan Wolverine Eddie Humphrey. And Eddie, there's so much talk and so much chatter. Do you hear anything out there when you're competing?
You know, when you get in the zone, there's really not much else that you see or hear that goes on besides what you're doing up there. Takes a lot of focus, many years of practice. And here on that dismount, you can see she pulls in just a little bit, closed shoulder angle. Take a closer angle at this. You younger kids looking at home, always keep those shoulders open on the dismount. Stay away from the bar.
Go hard, Lulu. Don't hold back.
Back on the vault, Yuri Nagai's score.
Come on, Lou. Stand up.
Lucy Ennis is next on the vault for Minnesota, the junior from Roseville, Minnesota. 9-7, her first appearance last week in the vault. 7 times last year, she was the top performer on the vault. Here goes Ennis.
She struggled in warm-ups and has no problems there. This vault is out of a 9.9 start value. And it's a front handspring to a front flip in a pike position. Again, another blind landing. Should bring in a good score.
I know.
A few seconds ago, Danny Levy on the bars. See her numbers at 9-7 for Danny as she gets encouragement. Kelsey Mazer is next for the Michigan State Spartans on the bars. A 5'7" freshman from LaGrange, Illinois, made her debut on the bars last competition with a 9-5.
Out of Illinois Gymnastics Institute. Another ginger, and she looked a little bit far, but reached for it and got it. Michigan State not giving away a lot today. Really fighting for every 10th. And here's the combination again of blind change, full pirouette to a double tuck. Nearly sticks it. And Michigan State having just over a 3/10 lead going into this rotation. Really fighting to hang on. Blind change, full pirouette to a double tuck.
Back in the vault, Lucy Ennis has scored. Kendra Elm is on the vault here for the Gophers. Last year as a junior, earned a 9.8 top score versus Minnesota that day.
And another good vault for Minnesota. Her body positions was a little bit cleaner than what we've seen before, a little bit straighter in the air, but she did take a hop forward. Very strong approach. Good lines in the air, straight body, tight. Just a tad short, has to take a hop forwards.
She won the vault versus Iowa in the last competition, did the senior Kendra Elm.
Scored a 9.85.
Kelsey Mazer at a 9.65 for Michigan State on the vault. Deneen Haba, the junior now for Michigan State. Had the best score last week on the bars against Pitt.
And a nice pack salto. A flyaway from the high bar to the low bar. She's been Michigan State's top bar swinger this season. Staying very consistent. A unique dismount toe on front with a half out. And Michigan State is right on track today. She performs a dismount that you don't see that often. She's going to put one foot to the bar, do a front flip, and finish with a half out.
So elegant. It's Kendra Elm on the vault for Minnesota. 9.725. Kayla Slechta, the freshman. She go last on the vault for Minnesota last week versus Iowa. Had her second score of 9.8 or better. She's 7th in the conference on the vault. Here goes Slechta.
Wow, that was a beautiful vault. A great block, giving her lots of height and extension in the air, and has time to open up her body position, really flare it out, show off the technique. Great height over the vault. You can see she's nice and tight on the horse, which allows her to get a nice block. Great altitude over the horse. The only deduction I could find in it was the step.
Here's a look at Deneen Haba's score on the bars. Jackie Berg is next. She's 5th in the conference, the junior from Tinley Park, Illinois. The top Spartan on the bars, 29th in the nation.
Scored a 9.875 in the first meet of the season. Big score. And that was a Pike Jaeger connected directly to a bail. And Michigan State has come to play today.
This is a little surprising, isn't it?
You know, Michigan State has had a little bit of a rough go beginning this season, but right now it looks like they're getting things back on track.
Coach Kathy Klages must like the results here from the second rotation.
And this is here Jaeger, a front flip in the pike position. And we saw the same dismount previously, 2 flips in the stretched position.
Here's Kayla Slechta's score a minute ago on the vault. 9.875 for the freshman Kayla Slechta. Janelle Campbell, the final performer in this second rotation. The exhibition doesn't count towards the score. Eddie's, what is Janelle trying to accomplish here?
Well, right now what she's trying to do is build a lot of confidence for the future. This vault won't score towards the team. but it's a great way to exhibition, get a little bit of experience in the meet without having the score count. And she performs a Yurchenko entry vault, just a solid layout. A little bit loose in the knees on the back handspring.
Spartan fans, Nick Sporting Goods is looking for the Spartan Superfan at every Spartan Gymnastics meet this season. The Superfan of Minnesota.
Here's Jackie Berg with a solid finishing score on the bars of 9-8 for Jackie. Coming up, it's the third rotation. The Spartans go to the beam. The Minnesota Golden Gophers will do their work on the floor. Straight ahead on the Big Ten Network. Hey, Big Ten fans, now you can get free programming alerts on your mobile phone. Be the first to know when your favorite coaches and players will appear on the Big Ten Network. Just text alerts to 20284 or log on to BigTenNetwork.com/alerts. After the second rotation, we look at the results from the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
And again, freshman Kayla Skretchda leading the way.
Schlechter led the way for Minnesota, and we turn our attention now to the bars for Michigan State University.
And Michigan State bringing in some solid scores. A 9.85 from Nikki Argyros. Once again, leading the way for the Spartans on bars.
Eddie, we glance at the team standings after the second rotation. Michigan State, they've surprised you a bit, haven't they?
They have. They're leading right now Minnesota by 4/10, which is quite the surprise. But right now, Beam, their nemesis of all year, is where they have to go next. So if they can hold their way up through Beam, then this is going to be a very close competition to the end.
That's Eddie Humphrey. I'm Dan Kelly. It's good to have you along as you talk about Michigan State surprising. How did they do it, and how do they continue to do it against the Gophers?
Well, right now, they've been bringing a lot of energy out to the floor. I think if they keep the energy going, they'll be solid on Beam today.
First up on the beam for Michigan State, Serena Bumbarger, the freshman, won the individual beam competition, and her team's lost to Pittsburgh, but had a career best 9.65 for Serena.
And again, we talked about that leadoff position. Very critical, especially on an event like this, the balance beam, where the Spartans have struggled this season.
How wide is that beam, and how difficult is it to operate on?
It's 4 inches wide and difficult enough that you won't catch me up there. So far, looking solid. Leap series. Very focused and poised.
This has to be such a mental challenge, Eddie, being on the beam.
It definitely is. Like I said, I've never done beam before, but I would compare this to something like pommel horse for the male side of the sport. Extremely difficult, a lot of focus, and that was a huge start for Michigan State.
It's the freshman Bumbarger who gets him going on the beam.
Here's her series, back handspring layout. And a little bit of footwork. This is her jump series. And a gainer pike to a stuck Spartan landing.
And here's her score. First up on the floor, Anna Balboa for the Gophers. Of course, Minnesota missing freshman Dusty Russell to injury, their best competitor on the floor. Anna will do her best, the senior out of Monterrey, Mexico.
The Gophers have struggled with some injuries this season. Combination tumbling to a double back.
Eddie, what happens when you step out?
There'll be a 10th deduction for every time a gymnast steps outside of that line.
Is the line in or out?
The line is in. Over the line is out. A whip half to a punch front full.
This was the top score for Minnesota against Iowa, and they look to continue here against Michigan State. The floor has been the Gophers' friend.
So far, so good. Last pass, double pike. And a good start for the Gophers on floor.
Twelfth in the nation on the floor are the Gophers is Ana Balboa. Look at her second pass.
Round off to a whip half to a front layout with a full twist. She's going to dismount with the double pike, which is a D-level skill.
We go back to the beam, and Bumbarger's scores. Jackie Berg will go next up, and Kathy Klages, Michigan State University's head coach, talked about the beam being their weakest event. So Jackie Berg will try to follow up a strong opening performance from Bumbarger.
Hoping to capitalize.
Berg, the junior, season best on the balance beam versus Iowa, Michigan, and Western Michigan.
Scored a 9.625 and performs the same series that we saw from the freshman. Two back handspring step outs to a layout step out. Switch leap.
Eddie, you talk about getting in the zone and not hearing anything else. Do you hear the voices of your coaches at times?
You know, you learn to focus on what you need to and not think about what you don't need to. So things like your teammates cheering you on, those are some of the things you hear, or the coach in the background, but that's really about it. But so far, what State is doing is working. 2 for 2. Two back handspring step outs to a layout step out. Not even a wobble. And she dismounts with a round off double full. She's a little bit short on the landing.
Ana Balboa score from a minute ago, 9-7 for Balboa. Next up on the floor for Minnesota, it's Lucy Ennis, the junior out of Roseville, Minnesota, at Trinity High School. 9-8 on the floor. And her last competition was her personal best for Lucy.
Lucy is one of only 2 gymnasts in Gopher history who have scored a 39 in her first all-around performance. Very impressive. Oh. And I think she was supposed to do a Rudy on that pass, which is a layout with a 1.5 twist. It looked like she got a little bit lost and couldn't quite find the floor.
You see the look in her face. It's got to be tough to recover after that initial stumble.
It's very difficult. It's something that you don't train for. So when it happens in a meet situation, You have to recover, regroup yourself quickly, and stay poised.
So far, so good for Lucy in the recovery.
How it works is that 6 performers go, and the top 5 performances will count. And that's the Rudy there that I believe that she was supposed to perform on her first pass.
So second pass, Lucy gets it done, but not so easy on that first one.
And here she just gets a little bit lost. Her head sticks out during the twist, which is a perfect recipe for getting lost in the air. Unfortunately, has to take a fall. And finishes with the front 1.5 twist.
Second to go, Jackie Berg's score on the beam. 9.55 for Jackie. Shantae Taiki next up on the beam for the Spartans. 9.625 on the balance beam in her last competition, finishing third did Taiki.
Scored her season best of a 9.75 on this event. That was against West Virginia. Was good enough for third place. And now we're starting to see both teams open the door.
Taiki competed in all competitions this afternoon. Here doing her work on the beam. Third in the rotation for the Spartans.
She was second place all around with a 38.5 against Pittsburgh.
That's the voice of former Michigan Wolverine Eddie Humphrey, Dan Kelly, our Big Ten Network crew. Good to have you along as Shantae Taiki showing her skills here in the third rotation from inside Jenison Fieldhouse in campus of Michigan State University. Taiki powerful and elegant at the same time.
Doing a good job of pulling herself back together. And a good finish.
Kathy Klages is pleased. Here's a little slip from Shantae.
She's going to perform a back handspring step out to a layout, and her hips just aren't square with the beam, turning her right hip out, and has to take a 5/10 deduction. Finishing well with the front full dismount.
Seconds ago, Lucy Ennis's score on the floor for Minnesota. 8.95 for Lucy. Kyla Slechta, the freshman. Minnesota native on the honor roll every year in high school for Slechta. Bringing that wisdom now to the college scene for Minnesota.
She's a kinesiology major. Wants to work with athletes in the future.
She's got a pretty good background for it. As a slight stumble there from Slechta.
And that was a double full that you saw. Not a lot of gymnasts perform that pass. One and a half, punch front. And just a little bit of stumbles on these first two passes. And just a freshman. Minnesota looking for a bright future for her. Already standing out.
Their depth is being tested, Minnesota, with injuries, and their coach is pleased with the depth of the new players on the scene, new competitors, and Slechta seems to be finishing strong here.
And this was a good, solid performance. Exactly what Minnesota needs to keep themselves in the game.
Here's the second pass from Slechta.
And this was the 1.5. Punch front. Just a little bit of stumbling with the feet there. Not quite trusting herself on the landing. And finishing with the same dismount that we saw from Luciana's front 1.5.
Shante Taiki went last on the beam for Michigan State. Here are the results. 9.1 for Taiki. Next up on the beam for Michigan State, Alex Pace, a freshman. Competed as a Spartan for the first time January 7th. Career high 9.55 on the floor versus Pitt for Alex Pace.
And she fights for it, but stays on. And this is a very important routine. This is a momentum breaker or maker. I think this routine right here is going to set the tone for what Michigan State does for the rest of their beam lineup.
Why is it a make or breaker moment?
Well, you had Shanti Teki, who fell before her. So anyone who comes off after that, the score is going to have to count. Michigan State would have to count a fall. But if she hits a big routine here, it puts Michigan State back in a good position and helps them get the momentum going back.
But if not, more pressure on Levy and Morley, who will follow on the beam.
Exactly. And so far, as a freshman, stepping up to the plate and taking the big swing, sticking her 1.5. You can see just how small the beam is. Standing with your feet next to each other, you can't even fit both of your feet onto the beam. And there's the stuck landing. The freshman from Michigan State really stepping up today.
Kathy Klages was right there to bark her enthusiasm. So we go to the floor for the Minnesota Gophers. Look at Slechta's score on the floor. Freshman 9.75 for Kayla Slechta. Shannon Golich will go next for the Gophers. 9.8 versus Iowa's her best. Second place on the day to her injured teammate, Dusty Russell, who is again freshman of the week. For the first time was Dusty Russell. They miss her today, but we'll see what Golich can do.
And you mentioned Russell was injured. Minnesota struggling with injuries, as they have in previous years. The key to their success this season is going to be staying healthy. You can see Golich's ankles taped.
Coach Meg Stevenson from Minnesota likes the gumption from her team. They're competitors. They love to compete. They get along with one another, and they have that all-important chemistry already early in the season.
Performing a front loud to punch front full. And one thing that Coach Stevens prides herself on is the choreography of these routines. Really working hard to put all the dance elements together to fit each and every gymnast to their style.
Golich, the sophomore out of Aurora, Illinois.
Gearing for a last pass, a double pike. And a good finish. That routine should bring in a good score. You can see the intensity, the focus. A front loud to punch front full in the laid out position. And finishing the routine with a double pike.
Coach Meg Stevenson, she likes it. She likes it a lot. Here's Alex Pace's score on the beam. Next up from Michigan State, Danny Levy. Competed in the all-around this afternoon is Danny. Freshman out of Florida. Goes to work on the beam.
She is currently ranked 18th in the all-around in the conference. Not bad for a freshman. The Spartans have a very young team, using a lot of their freshmen in the lineups. A tough position to come into, coming in with as freshmen with a lot of weight on your shoulders. Front tuck, and she's fighting but stays on. And that's what it's going to take to win this competition, is fighting for every single 10th.
It's Danny Levy showing some fight. Her Spartans ranked 5th in the conference. Make that 7th in the conference on the beam are the Spartans.
Going for a series. Connect. Oh, and she completely missed her foot on the beam. And that's a tough one, because this is her bonus series connected to her dismount. You can see right from the start, she's off. And, you know, that's pretty incredible talent. She actually jumped off of one leg just to fight to get the flip around. And that was the front tuck we saw. A small bobble, but she fights for it.
Moments ago on the floor, Shannon Golich scored 9-8 on the floor for Minnesota. Next up is Janelle Campbell. The only freshman last year to compete in all 4 events, Janelle Campbell. Communications major, 3-time honor roll member in high school. The sophomore Campbell.
She mounts with a double pike. Big double pike. She averaged a 9.648 on floor last year. Hoping to better those marks today. And that was the same pass that we saw from her teammate previously. A front layout to a punch front full. And Minnesota has the opportunity right now to close the gap. With Michigan State will have to count a fall on beam. This routine could be a big momentum changer.
This has been maybe the best performance so far on the floor for Minnesota.
So far, I would have to agree with that. 1.5, punch pike. Minnesota bringing another strong performance on the floor. She opens with a double pike. Very nice height. And ends with the 1.5 punch front flip in the pike position.
So tremendous performance on the floor from Janelle Campbell. Seconds ago, Danny Levy, her score on the beam. Next up on the beam, Kelsey Morley. The 6th and final participant in this competition.
This is a very important performance right now. Even with the fall, Michigan State should still be in the game.
We mentioned this is the season debut for Kelsey Morley, bothered by injuries.
Full turn, a requirement on the beam. You hear her teammates encouraging her in the back.
Eddie, how much help do they have in creating these routines?
Lots of help. The coaches put a lot of long hours into the gym, a lot of effort, and not just the actual skills, but into the choreography that goes behind the skills, putting together the dance, the movements of the arms, body, and really trying to put every routine to fit each gymnast individually. And that is a huge routine for the Spartans right now. She struggled a little bit on the series, came back to it, covered it up. And this should bring in a good score for the Spartans.
And here's the dismount from Kelsey Morley.
She's gonna do a front layout with a 1.5 twist. Coach Klages pleased with the efforts.
Next, we move to the floor for Minnesota. Janelle Campbell with a score of 9-8 for the Gophers. Next up on the floor for Minnesota, Kendra Elm competing in the all-around, second place on the floor versus Michigan State last year. See if the senior can add and build on that experience.
Scored a 9.85 earlier this season. Another double pike mount. Well done. A biomedical engineering major. She does 2 front layouts in combination. And again, right now, Minnesota is counting a fall. So she will need to hit this last pass. And assuming that she hits this pass, this should close the gap, possibly give them a slight lead going into the last rotation. Here comes that all-important pass, and she does it well.
Nice expression from Kendra Elm, finishing things off for Minnesota on the floor.
Strong finish for Minnesota.
Well, that completes the third rotation. Gymnasts, please prepare to march to your final event. Next home meet will be held on Friday.
Beginning her routine with a double pike. A little bit loose with the knees, but finds her landing well.
This will be the first ever collegiate autism awareness meet.
And finishing with the whip half, punch front full.
And there's her score. Big Ten women's gymnastics will continue coming up. We've got the 4th and final rotation. Minnesota will go to work on the beam. Meanwhile, Michigan State goes to the floor when we come back. Back inside Jenison Fieldhouse, well, you can join the thousands who have already become fans of the Big Ten Network on Facebook. Get programming information, play Big Ten trivia, and interact with other Big Ten fans. Find us today at facebook.com/the Big Ten Network. After 3 rotations, check out our results. Beginning with Minnesota on the floor. What do you see, Eddie?
Golich and Campbell both leading the way, solid 9.8 scores.
And on the beam, Michigan State University.
The Spartans had a couple of wobbles on there, but fought their way through the beam and did improve on their performance.
Look at the team numbers after 3 rotations.
And we have a close one. Michigan State with a 145.325. Minnesota still holding on to the lead with a 146.025.
Minnesota is the favorite. Michigan State, they're the underdog. And moments ago, we had a chance to chat up their head coach, Kathy Klages. Good to be joined by Michigan State University head coach Kathy Klages. And Kathy, 3 rotations in the books. Are you pretty satisfied so far with your team's performance?
We are pretty satisfied. Vault and bars went excellent. Beam has been our nemesis in the last 3 meets, and we improved quite a bit. We had 4 falls on the other meets that we had. We only had 2 falls here tonight. We had to count a fall, which of course you never want to do, but it's called improvement. And with the mental instability of our team right now, I am so very proud of them. They are really working through this. It's been a tough start to the season with Catherine's injury, and we are so proud of the way they're pushing through and improving with each competition.
Coach, you mentioned that you guys struggled a little bit on the beam. So far, it looks like you guys are holding your own against a great Minnesota team. What do you tell your team going into the last rotation to keep the pressure off of them?
Oh, we just told them that, hey, this is our event on floor. We like to have fun, wink at the judges, enjoy the performance. So we said, hey, just go do what you know how to do, ladies. This is the fun part.
Kathy, thanks for having some fun with us. Go get them.
Thanks.
Head coach Kathy Klages of the Michigan State Spartans. Back in Michigan for the 4th and final rotation. Minnesota on the beam, and Alex Feakin beginning things off for the Gophers.
As I mentioned before, that all-important leadoff position, especially on an event like beam. Minnesota with just over a 6/10 lead going into this rotation.
Minnesota ranked 3rd in the conference on the beam.
Traditionally, Minnesota strong beam workers. A small little bobble on that full turn. Preparing for a series. Backhand swing step out to layout. To a full dismount, stuck. And a nice start for the freshman, leading the way for the Gophers. Now check out the fight here. It's hard to see there. Her hips were a little bit off, but she's square with her feet and has no problem with it. She's going to do her dismount in combination. Back handspring, layout step out to a layout full.
So Alex Feakin happy after that performance on the beam. We go to the floor with Michigan State. Kelsey Mazer, the freshman from LaGrange, competed on the beam the first time last week. 4th floor appearance for Mazer.
Scored a 9.75 against West Virginia.
Spartans 5th in the conference on the floor, 30th in the nation.
Double tuck, very solid. A lot of energy in this routine, which is exactly what Michigan State is going to need if they want to overtake the Gophers here in this last rotation.
Does it affect your game plan? Does it affect the attack, knowing the circumstances as you go into the fourth rotation?
Well, the important thing is not to put too much pressure on yourself. You know the situation, but I'm sure these girls have done this 100 times in the gym. So I'm sure Coach Clegg has told them, just do what you do in the gym. Don't change anything. Everything will be fine.
Coach Klages watches on anxiously. Kelsey Mazer here on the floor for Michigan State.
Trying to finish out this routine big. Give Michigan State a big start. 1.5 punch front. And she's a little bit low, but saves it. And State will take it.
Kelsey Mazer is going to be the first of 3 freshmen to go on the rotation on the floor for Michigan State.
And she does a 1.5 twist here. And her knees buckle just a little bit on the punch, but she's strong enough that she can pull the front all the way around to her feet. We see a whip half to her front full in the laid out position.
Here's Alex Feakin's score moments ago, 9.65 on the beam for Feakin. Next up is Janelle Campbell for Minnesota on the beam. Making her debut this season on the beam for Janelle. The sophomore readies herself.
On such a disciplined event, she said one of the greatest lessons that she's learned from this sport in gymnastics is just being simply disciplined, staying committed to what you accomplish in life. Great lessons to pass on. She has a back handspring to a tuck for her series.
Nice recovery there.
Just a small wobble, but holds on to it. Not going to be a major deduction. Front aerial. And she does have to put her hands down. Setting up for her dismount. A gainer full. Nice landing. Just a small bobble in the middle of that routine. See here, she does a front aerial, just a little bit off.
What's the deduction there, Eddie, for grabbing the bar? Or beam, rather.
She could see, depending on what the judges do, she could see a 4 or 5/10 deduction on this.
Moments ago on the floor, Kelsey Mazer on the floor, scoring 9.60. Alex Pace is next, the 5'1" freshman out of Bel Air, Maryland. And a 9.55, a career high versus Pitt on the floor.
Opens up with a solid double tuck. And as mentioned before, Michigan State is opening up with their first 3 gymnasts, all freshmen. Big shoes to fill, a lot of pressure on these freshmen, but they seem to be handling it well.
How different is the competition and the practice at the college level from the club and high school level?
Well, it's a lot different. Here on the college level, you do have a whole team to support you. A lot of times in the clubs, some of these girls will come from gyms where there's not a team like you would have here in the college. So from a support factor, it helps a lot on the college scene.
Who picks the music? That little Def Leppard in the background.
Sometimes it's the gymnasts, sometimes it's the coaches. And there's a fall there. This is really going to hurt Michigan State. They're going to need some pretty top-notch performances here to finish if they want to catch Minnesota. And they're going to need the door to open a little bit for themselves. They need Minnesota to come off the beam a couple times if they want to win this competition.
Coach Kathy Clegg is talking about how proud she is of her group and the mental strength they've shown this season as we look at the first pass from Alex Pace.
This is a front full punch front layout. And she just took it a little bit too easy on this last pass. See her knees buckle on the round off, which caused her to be short from the very beginning before she could even start the 1.5. And she sits it down.
9:45 moments ago for Janelle Campbell on the beam. Next, it's Kendra Elm. A senior from Plymouth, Minnesota. As Kendra Elm begins her turn on the beam.
Academic All Big Ten Award winner last year. Plans on going to medical school next year. And a very nice series. Looking very confident. As long as Minnesota stays on the beam, they should be able to hold on to the lead.
Kendra's had some close moments, but she's maintained her footing. We've got to count 5 of the top 6 scores from both teams.
And a solid performance from Minnesota, exactly what they need right now. And check out how solid she is here. 2 back handspring step outs, layout step out, no wobbles. Finishing with the cartwheel through to a full. Can't argue with that. Looks very relieved.
Seconds ago, the score from the freshman Alex Pace. 9-1-2-5 for Alex. Danny Levy, the freshman, is next up. Competing in the all-around for the second time in her MSU career out of Newport Richey, Florida.
You mentioned the choice of music. A lot of times the athletes will pick, and we saw this earlier from Minnesota gymnast, and we'll see it again in the replay. She threw her head back into the twist, and like I said before, a perfect recipe for getting lost in the air. And she's struggling to get back into it.
She just looks so mad after that initial mistake. It's got to be so tough to recover.
And you know, she looks like she might be hurt. I don't think she's pointing that left foot all the way on that short landing. And she is hobbling.
Danny plays on here on the floor for Michigan State.
It'll be interesting to see what she does here on this last pass.
Nothing like changing things up on the fly for Danny Levy.
Always hard to do, especially as a freshman. And again, same thing that we saw in the first pass.
Here's a look at the floor from Danny Levy.
And a tough outgo for the freshman. She opens with front through. And I'm not sure if she was supposed to do a double full or 2.5 on that one. But she gets lost in the air. You see here she lands short, and you hate to see those landings. And I'm sure her ankle was bothering her on this last pass. The head comes back, and she's lost.
Well, moments ago on the beam for Minnesota, we get a look at Kendra Elm's score, 9-7-2-5. Next up on the beam, Kristen Furukawa. A senior from California.
Very unique mount, kind of cool. Shows a lot of style. One of the things I love about her gymnastics is just her nice, clean lines. Always has tight knees, a great toe point. Just a very nice look.
You talk about style. How does that behoove you in the judges' eyes? What are they looking for?
Well, it sets you apart. Really gives you that extra little edge, something a little bit different that other competitors may not have. And she's got it. And she's looking great so far. Looking to bring home a big routine.
And style, putting a little more shine on the performance here from Kristen Furukawa.
And a stuck landing. She's very happy with that routine.
Here's that mountain you liked, Eddie.
And here's some of that unique style. Just having a little fun, rolling around on the beam. We saw the same dismount earlier to a perfect landing.
Moments ago on the floor, Danny Levy, 7-7-0. Getting words of encouragement from the coaching staff.
And a tough go for the freshman.
Now they go from 3 freshmen starting off on the floor to a little more experience. The junior, Jackie Bird from Tinley Park, Illinois. Opened the season with a 9.875, but the last 2 competitions, the numbers have diminished on the floor from Bird.
Opening up with a Rudy. Front 1.5 twist. And this is always tough, having to come back with 2 of your previous athletes with a fall. It's always tough to regroup yourself. But like we said before, you have to pay attention to the good, throw out the bad.
There's a consistent mental battle in this sport, it seems, Eddie, listening to you.
You know, this sport is incredibly tough on the mind. I don't think there's any other sport like it. As I compare it to the other sports, even on those rough days, a basketball player can shoot a basket, a football player can throw a basketball, but these gymnasts are out here flipping around over the, and another big fall for Michigan State. And you talked about the mental toughness. Right now, I think Michigan State is just struggling to refocus right now. Luckily, she's not injured.
Here's a look at the first pass from Jackie Berg.
Shopman's with the front layout with a 1.5 twist. And you talked about that mental toughness. This sport is so demanding physically as it is mentally. And you have to be right on both. And a little bit off can cause a 5/10 deduction.
So little, but so much. We move to the beam. Kristen Furukawa barking encouragement. Her numbers on the beam moments ago. Shannon Golich going here for Minnesota. She made her debut on the beam last June 23rd, 2010 versus Michigan State. 9.60 in her first beam performance. We'll see what Shannon, the sophomore, can do here.
Her season high is a 9.8, which was good enough for third place against Pittsburgh. See another leap series.
Does Minnesota play things safer here in the fourth and final rotation, protecting this lead?
You know, I think if you're Minnesota, knowing that you're pretty solid on holding on a victory right now, you go out, you do the same thing. This is a great opportunity to put a little pressure on yourself. Pretend it's a championship format. Put yourself in the mindset that it's a Big Ten, regional, or NCAA championship, and tell your athlete to perform as if they normally would. And again, with that strategy, trying to play into getting your athletes to focus.
Pretty good focus here so far from Shannon Golich, wouldn't you say?
She looks great out there. So far, everything looks good. A lot of energy coming from the bench right now. She does her series straight into a dismount. And Minnesota is going big right now on beam, giving away very few deductions.
She's got some strength, doesn't she, Shannon Golich?
This is a tough sport, and you have to be strong to do it. It's not for the weak. She does her series straight into her dismount, a full twist.
Jackie Berg on the floor minutes ago. 8.8 for Jackie. Next up, Shante Taiki for the Spartans here on the floor. Last competition, she led Michigan State. The score of 9.77 did Taiki. Second last participant, the fourth rotation here on the floor for Michigan State.
She is ranked in the top 20 on this event. Opens with the double tuck. Very nice height on the opening mount. And State has had a tough go here, and it's important that she stays focused and still goes big and strong. And again, Michigan State is off.
Looks like a different team here in the fourth rotation.
They do, and it's unfortunate because Michigan State is a very talented team, and they just had a lot of tough breaks early in this season, and they're just having one of those days. And as a coach at the club level, I tell my little Gym America kids on those days when they're having those rough times, it's not about how many times you fall, it's about how many times you get up and how fast you get up. So hopefully this will be a good learning experience for Michigan State, something that they can build on.
Because you know when even things are going to go well, you can always have some falls. As we look at the height that Taiki got on the first pass.
Well, this was a great mount. Showed more height, more amplitude than most gymnasts on this skill. Performs it very well. And she just gets a little bit rushed here. And only ends up doing a half.
Let's go, Anna, come on!
Shannon Golich, the sophomore, look at her score on the beam, 9.775 for Golich. Anna Balboa will finish things off on the beam. She had a 9.8 in her last competition on the beam, did Anna.
Front tuck onto the beam. She's a very consistent performer on this event. Scored a 9.825 6 times last year. And I spoke too soon. Coming into this meet, she was Minnesota's top beam worker.
Amazing focus from Balboa. Good look from our crew here on the beam. Anna wrapping things up for the Gophers.
Trying to stay focused, as you said. Dismount. A layout full. Unfortunately, had to take a fall. But it shouldn't hurt them much in the team standings. And here's a fun mount. Front tuck onto the beam. Which makes it so hard because you can't see the landing. And she's just a little bit off, enough to take her down. But finishes well with a strong dismount and a layout full.
Back to the floor for Michigan State. Shanti Taiki on the floor. 9.025 for Taiki. Nikki Argyros will wrap things up for Michigan State on the floor. Her 9.7 on the floor in her last competition.
And at this point, State is looking for a solid routine to build into the next competition. And end this competition on a good note as well.
It's been a tough floor performance for Michigan State. We'll see if Nikki can clean things up.
And it looked like she stepped out there, which is a 10th deduction. If she was on the line, she will not get a deduction. She has a lot of spring. Nikki scored a 9.7 against Pittsburgh.
Stepping out of bounds, stepping on the line, floor awareness. It has to be something that has to be a learned behavior over the years. You don't just get right away.
No, it's tough because even now I see a lot of young gymnasts, they take too many steps, go out of bounds. So it's something that you learn as a kid, but when you get in that meet situation, a lot of adrenaline, a lot of power. Sometimes you just overdo it too much and you go out of bounds. And a good finish for Michigan State on floor.
That first step out from Nikki Argyros.
A very nice double pike, just steps back a little bit too much. You can see the heel barely step over the line.
Now let's welcome head coach Shannon Golich.
And finishes with a double tuck. Good height. Comes out a little bit too early. And has to take a step forward. But a routine that Michigan State can use.
Well, over on the beam, we check out the score. The final participant in the beam, Anna Balboa, 9.350 for Anna.
Thank you for coming to Minnesota and participating in our 5th annual June Howard Foot for a Cure competition.
And there's her score. Another day, another great display of athletic skill on the Big Ten Network. When we come back, we're going to see the results from the 4 rotations this afternoon at Michigan State. East Lansing, Michigan was the place to be this afternoon. The place to be later on the Big Ten Network. More women's gymnastics as the Hawkeyes are in Champaign, Illinois to meet the Fighting Illini. It's next. It's in HD, and it's on the Big Ten Network. And Eddie, that should be a good one.
2 very well evenly matched teams are going to be going head-to-head. It's going to be interesting who wins this showdown.
Check the results after the 4th rotation on the beam for the Minnesota Golden Gophers.
The Gophers stayed strong with Kendra Elm coming in with a 9.725, good enough for 3rd place. Shannon Golich with a strong 9.775, and Christian Furukawa winning the event with a 9.825.
Look at Michigan State and their results and their work on the floor this afternoon.
Michigan State had a rough going tonight on the floor. We hope that they can bounce back and hopefully free from injuries. Kelsey Measure coming in with a 9.6, leading the Spartans.
Here are the final team standings after today's event.
Going into the 4th rotation, it was a pretty close battle, but with Michigan State faltering on the floor, Minnesota comes away with the win, 194.445. Michigan State, 191.4, still looking for their first win of the season.
Moments ago, Eddie had a chance to catch up with the winning head coach from Minnesota, Meg Stevenson.
Coach, today was a great performance. You had a lot of great performances from the freshmen stepping up, as well as your other veteran performers from Elm. What were the highlights for you today?
Well, we had some girls that really had been struggling a little bit in the preseason, and they were absolutely wonderful today. Kristen Furukawa did a beautiful beam routine and a great bar routine, and Kendra Elm back in the all-around, which she competed all last year, so we were really thrilled about that. And then upcoming freshman Kayla Slechta really did a nice job on all 3 of her events. And then Janelle Campbell has never competed all around for us, and she's a sophomore, and so that was really exciting to have her step up too.
And your team has battled a lot of injuries in the past, especially this year again. How is your team looking as far as injury-wise?
We're coming back. The good news is we will get some people back this year, and you know we say it's an optical illusion or an obstacle illusion, and we try to just move past it and move forward, figure out where we are and move forward from that, and not look at the past and not dwell on it, and just make the best out of what we have. And I think that showed tonight.
And you return home against Air Force. What kind of improvements or changes do you tell your team that you need to make for the next meet?
Well, we definitely need to work on our consistency. We need to get our vaults a little bit bigger. Today they weren't as big as they have been, so we'll do a little bit of work on that. A little bit better on our handstands on bars, you know, all that fine tuning, but it's nice to be in the spot where you're fine tuning and you have the routines out there. You just need to clean them up a little bit, so that's what we'll work on.
Well, thanks, Coach, and congratulations on the win.
Appreciate it.
Thanks to Minnesota head coach Meg Stevenson as her group had a good day. They hope to continue to climb the charts as we take a look at the apparatus winners today, Eddie.
And it was freshman Kayla Slechta coming up with a huge vault, winning the event. A great start for the freshman this season. On bars, we had our event winner, Nikki Argyros, scoring a 9.85. Bringing home a huge double layout, stuck landing, winning one for Sparty.
The senior showed good leadership, did Nikki. Then back to Kristen Furukawa.
She really showed great poise, great leadership today, really sealing the deal here on beam, knocking out perfect landing. Another event winning for the Gophers.
That's why they call her the anchor, the senior from Pomona, California, co-winners with Shannon Golich.
Golich with another strong performance, scoring a 9.8, tying with teammate Janelle Campbell. Both strong performers tonight.
And our all-around winner, Kendra Elm.
Kendra Elm put up a great performance tonight, very consistent, scored a 39 even. Here we look at her bar routine, swinging, releasing, and flipping her way to lead Minnesota to a big win today.
The all-around winner is Kendra Elm. What did you like about Kendra on the beam, Eddie?
Well, she just looked so solid, so confident in herself. You can tell she's just really trusting her ability, really getting after it, being aggressive, as you see in the perfect landing.
Kendra Elm had a good day, and Eddie Humphrey had a chance to talk to the victorious Gopher.
Kendra, you had a big competition today. What was the highlight for you in your eyes?
The highlight for me was just going out there and hitting all my routines. You know, that's what we aim to do every day when we come to a competition. So I was really proud of myself for doing that today. That was probably my biggest achievement today.
And you're known for the Gophers as a very consistent competitor. Any words of advice to any of the kids out there watching?
Well, I guess what our coaches always tell us is, you know, you're going to compete like you train. So, you know, we train to hit our routines every time we go up there. And, you know, that's what I did tonight. And so I'd say that's my advice. You know, train like you want to compete, and then everything will fall into place for you.
Now, up next, you have Air Force coming up. What kind of improvements are you going to try to make, or anything that you need to change? Do you change your game plan or come in with the same thing?
We kind of always come in with the same game plan, and, you know, that's just to hit 24 for 24 every time we go in. So we missed a few routines today, so obviously we want to make a few minor adjustments and then just keep cleaning up our routines so we can, you know, make those 9.75s, 9.8s, 9.85s, and just keep building from here.
Thank you, and we'll see you at the championships in March.
Thank you so much.
Michigan State was inspired today by their injured teammate Catherine Mahoney. The senior fractured her C6 vertebrae in practice December 29th, is paralyzed and her neck down. And today, the players wore a tattoo on their face with the $sign and on the T-shirt. As Catherine Mahoney's spirit lives on the floor. For Michigan State, there were some miscues today from the Spartans. It was a good start, but they really struggled on the floor and had a bit of a meltdown. Head coach of Michigan State, Kathy Klages, talked with Eddie Humphrey earlier.
Thanks, Dan. I'm here with Coach Klages. And what can you tell us today about your performance? You guys got off to a really strong performance, better than you had in the previous this season, and got a little bit rough on the floor exercise.
Yes, I think that surprised all of us, even those gymnasts out there performing, because we have done quite well on floor exercise up to this point. And, you know, I don't know if we just are struggling with finishing because we fell apart on beam at the last two away meets, and that is the last event in the competition. And now we have, you know, the last event in today's competition, and the team falls apart once again. So we're going to have to, you know, focus on finishing the events the competitions that we start.
Coach, you did have some strong performances today. Who were the top performers for you today?
Well, I think that Deneen Haba did a phenomenal job on the two events that she is doing, and I think that is something that we have to be really proud of. It's nice to have Kelsey Morley back in the lineup. She had a concussion and has been out of commission for quite some time now, and so she had a couple of days of practice, and we did rely on her on two events tonight, so it's wonderful to have her back. She will only get better because she hasn't had much time to practice. Let me think. We had a good bar performance from the entire team, so we're definitely very, very proud of the entire bar team. And beam is getting better. You know, we really came back and focused on beam, but it kind of makes me wonder if we neglected floor a little bit in the process. We obviously trained on floor this week, but the focus was balance beam. So we'll just go get back in that gym and keep working hard.
And preparing for your next competition, what do you tell your team to improve upon?
Well, I think the best thing for us, we had two meets last weekend, and we have next weekend off. So I think the thing that's really exciting for us is we've got the weekend off and we've got time to collect ourselves and spend 2 weeks of training prior to our next meet. The other positive thing about that is we're going to see Catherine next Saturday, and the entire team is going down as a group, and I think that will be inspiring for all of us.
Well, thank you, Coach, for your time, and good luck to your team for the rest of the season.
Thank you so much.
For Eddie Humphrey, I'm Dan Kelly. So long from East Lansing. More women's gymnastics is next. Iowa taking on Illinois from Champaign.